17%. I want to start with that number because honestly, when I first saw it, I had to double check.
It's a big number.
It's huge. According to the Pew Research Center, roughly 17% of new marriages in the U.S. are between spouses of a different race or ethnicity.
And that's just the official interracial statistic.
Right. That's just the visible stuff. It doesn't even count, the Irish Catholic marrying the Greek Orthodox or a secular New Yorker marrying someone from a conservative rural background.
If you throw all those mixed matches into the pot, you're talking about a majority of modern relationships. It really is a demographic revolution.
A revolution.
Yeah, a fundamental shift. You have to remember, back in 1967, after Loving v. Virginia, mixed relationships were the absolute exception. Statistical anomalies.
And now
Now they're a major feature of modern life.
And that is exactly what we're unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into the work of Dr. Joel Krohn and his framework, Mixed Matches.
But I want to be really clear right out of the gate, because I think people hear mixed marriage and they expect this, heartwarming story about how love sees no color.
Right, the whole love conquers all narrative.
Exactly. And looking at Krohn's research, that narrative seems kind of dangerous.
It's incredibly dangerous. It's what gets people into trouble. Krohn's whole idea is that love is the starting line, not the finish line.
So if you go in thinking love is all you need,
You're going to hit a wall. This deep dive is about the actual mechanics of what happens when two different worlds collide.
So let's set the scene a little bit historically, because the context really matters here. Krohn talks about different eras of these relationships.
He does, and it helps to know where you fit. So pre-1960s was the era of forbidden love. It was dangerous, it was secret.
And legally risky.
Hugely.
Yeah?
Then, from the 60s to the 90s, you get the political statement era.
The look at us, we're breaking barriers era.
Exactly. The relationship itself was an act of rebellion. But the era we're in now, this is what he calls ordinary diversity.
Ordinary diversity. So I didn't marry you to protest something. I married you because we, met at a coffee shop.
Precisely. People are meeting at work on apps.
Yeah.
They're not trying to make a statement. But, and this is the key part, just because the stigma has lessened doesn't mean the cultural friction is gone.
In fact, it might be harder.
It can be because people aren't expecting it.
And that leads right to what Krohn calls the naivete stage. Stage one, that feeling of, our families are different, but we're soulmates, so it just won't matter.
Right, we're just human. It's a beautiful sentiment, but it is a terrible strategy. The whole point is to move from that naivete to integration, where you actually have a toolkit.
Okay, so let's get into the psychology of the why. Why do people enter these relationships? I mean, besides the obvious genuine connection.
Right. Krohn identifies some hidden drivers, and they can be a bit uncomfortable to look at.
I can imagine.
The healthy one is genuine connection, shared values, interests, all that. But the traps are real. The first big one is exoticization.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate. Isn't everyone attracted to something different? If I date someone from another background because I think their culture is beautiful, is that really a trap?
It becomes a trap when you stop seeing the person and start seeing a solution to your own boredom.
The solution.
Yeah. Exoticization is when the attraction is based on otherness. You're not dating a person, you're dating a fantasy. You think, Latin culture is so passionate, or Asian culture is so family-oriented.
So you're looking for a missing piece of yourself.
Exactly. You're trying to import a personality trait you feel you lack.
It's like you're dating a travel brochure.
That is the perfect analogy. And the problem is, eventually, that travel brochure gets the flu, or gets cranky, or just wants to watch bad TV.
And the fantasy collapses.
It collapses, and you're left with a real human who doesn't perfectly represent that stereotype you signed up for.
That makes a lot of sense. The other trap is rebellion, which, sounds like something a teenager does.
But adults do it all the time, often unconsciously. This is where you choose a partner specifically to reject your family's expectations.
The ultimate I quit.
It's the ultimate way of saying, I am not you, mom and dad. But once that rebellion phase fades, you're left with a marriage. And if the only foundation was making mom mad, you don't have much to stand on.
And things do get tough. Which brings us to the core of this, right? The conflict. Usually couples fight about, the dishes, money, that kind of thing.
It was surface stuff.
Yeah. But Krohn says in mixed matches, It's rarely about that.
It's almost never about the surface. It's about deep identity structures.
That sounds heavy. Identity structures.
It is. And the most common one is this tug of war between loyalty versus autonomy. It's the invisible engine behind so many fights.
Okay, give us a concrete example. Let's say we have a couple, Alex and Sam.
Okay. So imagine Alex comes from a more collective culture where the family is hierarchical. Loyalty to parents is, like, the highest virtue.
Got it. And Sam.
Sam comes from a pretty standard Western individualist background, values autonomy, independence. The couple is the center of the universe.
Okay.
So it's Tuesday. Alex gets a call. Mom wants us over for dinner on Sunday. Alex says yes immediately.
And Sam gets upset.
Right. Sam says, wait, we just went last week. I wanted to go hiking. Why do we have to go?
And Alex just hears, I hate your family.
Exactly. Sam thinks they're fighting about a schedule, a logistical issue. But Alex isn't fighting about dinner. Alex is fighting for loyalty. To say no to their parents feels like a moral failing in their cultural structure.
And Sam isn't really fighting about hiking.
No, Sam is fighting for autonomy. Sam feels like going to dinner again means you are letting your parents run our marriage.
So one is fighting for us, and the other is fighting for honor, and neither of them even knows it because they're just screaming about roast chicken.
Yeah. That's the two worlds problem in a nutshell. Two different cultural operating systems. If you don't stop and identify the structure, oh, this is loyalty versus autonomy, you will have that same fight every Sunday for 40 years.
So how do we stop the Sunday fight? This is where Chrome's toolkit comes in, right? The cultural inventory checklist.
It is homework, but it's cheaper than divorce. You have to sit down when you're not fighting and just audit your backgrounds, map out where you stand.
Let's walk through the big ones. Time was the first one that really jumped out at me.
Time is a classic. You have monochronic cultures versus polychronic cultures.
Monochronic is linear,
Yeah.
punctual.
Yes. Time is a resource. You spend it, you waste it, you save it. Punctuality is respect. Think the U.S., Germany, Switzerland. If the party starts at 7:00, you are there at 7:00.
Polychronic.
That's more Latin America, the Mediterranean, parts of Africa. Time is flexible. It bends around relationships.
So the classic, I'll be there when I get there.
Well, it's deeper than just being late. This is what people miss. To the monochronic partner, being late is a personal insult. It says, you don't value me.
Okay.
But to the polychronic partner, imagine they run into an old friend on the way to the party. To cut that conversation short just to look at a clock, that is the rude act. The relationship is more important than the schedule.
So neither one is wrong.
Right. But they are different operating systems.
Right.
If you don't know your partner is running on polychronic time, you will spend your life furious in the driveway.
Money. That's another huge one on the checklist. And not just savers versus spenders.
No, it's about the boundary of the family. In individualist cultures, money is personal. My salary or savings.
Right.
But in many collective cultures, if your cousin needs money for surgery or your uncle needs to start a business, you just give it to them.
No questions asked.
Pretty much. That's the function of money to support the network. Now imagine a partner from an individualist background seeing their spouse just send $500 to a cousin.
They would see it as a betrayal. Or, like, financial infidelity.
Exactly. You gave our money away. But the other partner is thinking, I just did my duty. You have to spell this stuff out.
It leads to what Crone calls the golden question.
Yeah.
I think this is maybe the most practical tool in the whole thing.
It really is. When you're in a fight, you have to hit pause and ask, is this a personality issue, a relationship issue, or a cultural issue?
That is such a useful pause button. It forces you to ask, are you just being annoying or are you just being German?
Or Japanese or Brazilian, right. It depersonalizes the conflict. It turns it from, you're doing this to me because you don't love me, to, okay, we are navigating two different maps.
It lowers the temperature.
Immediately.
There's one other dynamic in the toolkit I want to touch on. The cultural ambassador versus the cultural explorer.
Yes, a very common archetype. The ambassador is the partner from the minority culture, or just the one who's always educating the other. The explorer is the curious one.
It sounds nice, doesn't it? Like a healthy way to learn.
It can be, but the risk is burnout. Imagine being the ambassador. Every single day, you have to explain your history, why your food smells like that, why your aunt said that weird thing.
You become a tour guide for your own life.
Exactly. And the ambassador can get really resentful. Why do I always have to teach you? So the explorer needs to do their own homework. You know, read a book, Google it.
Don't make your partner do all the heavy lifting.
Please don't.
So you've done the inventory. You know you're monochronic, they're polychronic. What do you do with that? You can't just stare at the list.
No, that's just the diagnosis. The cure is what Crone calls creating a third culture. You don't pick one side or the other, you build a microculture that's unique to your relationship.
He uses that kitchen metaphor, right?
Fusion cuisine. Think about it. Fusion isn't just a burger next to a piece of sushi on a plate.
That's just separate.
Right. Fusion is taking the ingredients and making something totally new. A sushi burger.
And the prime laboratory for this is the holidays.
Oh, holidays are the ultimate stress test. They are so loaded with nostalgia, family expectation, religion.
Huh.
If you mess up a Tuesday dinner, whatever, if you mess up Christmas or Passover, that's war.
So how do you apply the third culture to December? Because that's when my friends have the biggest meltdowns.
Crone suggests a holiday matrix. You literally sit down with paper and rank every holiday. You ask 3 questions. 1, how important is this, 1 to 10?
Okay.
2, is the meaning nostalgic or religious? And 3, what are the non-negotiables?
I love the idea of non-negotiables because you assume everything is important, but really your partner just wants one specific thing.
Precisely. Maybe for you, Christmas is a 10 out of 10, but when you dig in, the religious service is a 2, but the smell of a real pine tree is a 10, a non-negotiable.
So you get the tree.
You get the tree. And maybe for your partner, Hanukkah is huge, but it's mostly about the food. So you blend it, you do the Chrismukkah thing, or you alternate years. Or, and this is my favorite, you invent something totally new. Maybe Thanksgiving becomes your holiday. You invent your own rituals that have nothing to do with either set of parents. You liberate it from tradition and just make it yours.
Rituals seem to be the glue here, not just the big holidays, but the little daily stuff.
Absolutely. Rituals stabilize the relationship. They create a sense of us. It could be saying, I love you, in both languages, or Taco Tuesdays. It just reinforces the idea that this is how we do things.
It builds a boundary around the couple, which is important because once you step outside that boundary, the world has opinions.
Mixed couples don't exist in a vacuum. You step out the door and you are visible. You deal with everything from people celebrating you as a symbol of the future to just staring.
The staring, or the classic, so what are you, directed at you or your kids.
Right. Crone's advice is to develop a united front. You cannot figure this out in the moment. You need prepared responses. You need signals.
Signals like, get me out of here.
Exactly. A look that asks, do we educate this person or do we just leave? And you need to agree on the answer beforehand. Otherwise, one partner feels totally abandoned.
And then there's family, the in-laws. This feels like the boss level of the game.
It is the boss level. Crone explains that families often go through a grieving process when a child marries out, and it looks just like the stages of grief. Shock, anger, bargaining.
That's intense, thinking of your parents grieving your marriage like a death.
It sounds harsh, but framing it as grief actually helps. They feel they're losing a connection, a lineage. They worry their grandkids won't understand them. It doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it explains the resistance.
And helps the couple not take it so personally.
Exactly.
There's a strategy he suggests called bridge or buffer. I thought this was crucial.
This is the decision you have to make constantly. When do I act as a bridge to connect my partner to my family? And when do I act as a buffer?
Meaning, when do I stand in the middle and take the hit?
Or just close the gate. If you have an uncle who makes snide comments about your partner's race, you can't be a bridge. You can't say, oh, just get to know him.
No, you have to be a buffer.
You have to say, no, we're not coming over until that stops. You protect your partner, but if it's just awkwardness or language barriers, then you build a bridge, you translate. Knowing the difference is key.
Let's move to the future. Parenting. There is so much anxiety around raising mixed kids.
Historically, there was this tragic mulatto myth. This idea that mixed-race children would be perpetually confused, belonging nowhere.
And Crone just pushes back hard on this.
He completely debunks it. The research shows that mixed children often have incredibly robust, adaptable identities, but it depends on how they're raised.
Right. Because I've heard people say, oh, we just raise them as human, we don't talk about race.
That's the avoidance approach, and it sounds so nice we don't see color, but Crone warns against this heavily. It leaves children unprepared for a racialized world.
Because the world will see their color.
Precisely. If society sees your child as Black or Asian and you've only taught them we're all the same, they won't have the tools to navigate that.
So you have to talk about it.
You have to. The recommended approach is the both-and strategy. You actively celebrate all heritages. You give them the language, the food, the skills for both sides.
What about religion? That feels even trickier. Can you be mixed religion?
It's harder. There's the gift of choice approach, where you expose kids to both and let them choose later. The downside is that it can be confusing for kids who just crave structure.
It's like saying, here are the ingredients, bake your own cake.
Right, and sometimes they just want a cake. So some experts suggest picking one primary religion but still exposing them deeply to the other. But the main goal either way is raising cultural bridge builders.
I love that term, cultural bridge builders.
These are kids with richer, more flexible identities. They can code switch. They understand multiple perspectives. They're not confused. They're adaptable. They are actually better equipped for a globalized world.
So, as we wrap up, it sounds like mixed relationships they're just a lot of work.
They're differently hard. That's the phrase Crone uses. They have challenges. Same culture, couples don't. You can't rely on assumptions. You have to verbalize everything.
That sounds exhausting.
It can be.
Yeah.
But the flip side is the rewards are unique. You get greater flexibility, deeper communication, because you have to communicate. You can't just coast.
And you get to build something new.
Exactly.
It reminds me of that quote from the Materials.
Yeah,
The goal isn't to eliminate difference, but to dance with it.
that's it.
Yeah.
And Crone leaves us with this really provocative question to ask ourselves. Does our relationship make us both more fully ourselves? Do our differences add richness rather than create barriers?
It almost suggests that these couples are a kind of prototype for the future. I mean, we're all living in this messy, connected world. If you can make it work in a marriage,
Maybe we can make it work out there. That's the hope. It starts in the kitchen, and hopefully it spreads from there.
a powerful place to leave it. Thank you so much for unpacking all this with me.
My pleasure.
And thank you for listening to The Deep Dive. Go find your own third culture, and we'll see you next time.